子面临的地上，闪现一颗，干掉地板，这波这就直接被碎了，老师没了，师弟没了，这个大爷也没杀，老师也没杀，落叶倒地，只剩皇冠哥。
Welcome everyone to Worlds Tonight. I'm Shox, joined here by Deficio and Papa Smithy after what was a hectic and a crazy day 3, I will have to say. We saw some blowouts, we saw some upsets, we saw it all.
We saw a great day for LCS. Every single EU and NA team won today.
4-0 for the LCS.
And I can't say the same for the LCK, so I know that at least half the crowd's pretty happy.
Yeah, so let's take a look at the standings because there were indeed some crazy results, I'd have to say. As said, 2 victories for EU. Misfits, they got their first victory, and it was versus Flash Wolves. I don't think that was incredibly expected from anyone. OD versus standings, of course, so that gave them their first point, and G2 won over Fenerbahce. So Europe can be happy today.
Europe can be happy. I had the bold prediction that Europe would win at least one game. I was looking at the G2 Fenerbahce, as you highlighted. I think the Misfits versus Flash Wolves was kind of like 50-50, especially because Flash Wolves is kind of hard to judge at the moment. We didn't have the 50 minutes and lost.
Yeah, that was actually very upsetting, the fact that they didn't even try to do anything where usually they do. Papa Smithy?
It was kind of a trend. If you think about it, there was, 3 games in a row where, in terms of kills at least, they were perfect games, right? 3 games that were shutouts for one side is not really something you expect, but it kind of feels like an extension of the meta. And I really do have a bone to pick with some of the styles chosen here, because a lot of teams, Korean teams especially, they love the outscale, they love the scale, and they think, okay, play defensive until you finally take it over in the late game. And 3 days in, we finally saw that being punished, especially in that Samsung game.
We do, however, also see most of those games go in favor of the Korean teams because they do, in fact, get to the late game, and the teams they're facing are not aggressive enough in the way they're playing. So there's a lot of things for teams to figure out, especially for next week when we go into the second round robin, because there is counters to what we're seeing, where you can still get the Ardent Sensor, but you can run more engage, you can run more aggressive comps, you can pick lane counters, like we saw a bit today as well.
Yeah, and when you talk about some new picks we saw that are being successful, the EU wins were both off the back of Trundle. Of course you called it. I mean, I'm just giving you credit where
thank you.
Thank
you. Just saying, it would make a lot of sense if people started playing Trundle. We were actually all sitting upstairs being very surprised. No one wanted to pick it. So I'm glad Europe brought it out and was very successful with it.
And it's one of those things where you think about what Trundle brings. Everyone knows about the split push, but playing around pressure, and teams that were drafting basically outscale comps usually give up pressure. They usually give up objectives to try to get to the late game. The Trundles here were paying full advantage of that. And that's why I think back to games where I was super convinced by how teams were playing. And I think of SKT versus C9 after C9 put in a big win today. You rewind all the way back to day 1. That was decisive. That was moving forward. That's the sort of League of Legends I'm hoping for. But I feel like today, the SKT we saw, certainly the Samsung, it was much more to the defensive side. And that's why suddenly I have queries I didn't think I'd have as a
I also want to say, with the European teams winning, especially Misfits, like, if you are taking such a long time to close out a game, even in this meta, like, European I'm not blaming them. It's great they win the game, but it's important to highlight that a lot of these teams are able to get early advantages, but then they take forever to close it out, and it becomes, in the late game, almost 50-50 if they actually manage to then win the last team fight. Misfits did do it because they had a really great game and they played really well, but you got to be concerned for the game that is in tomorrow, where you're not going to get basically a free late game with enemy teams being done.
Obviously, to just round up that standings topic, Group A is done now. We're going to see them tomorrow. They have played all their first round of their first week matches. SKT is reigning supreme, but you said that you weren't as confident. So what is it about SKT that you want to see change? Because I just want to remind everyone that we say this all the time, right? And also every first week when they drop a game, or an MSI, they drop a game, or they drop 2 games, it's like, oh, it's not the same. But if you say it, Papa Smithy, then I'm willing to believe it a bit
I guess I'm the authority on this, but it's not what I'm used to. It's not often that we see multiple Korean teams drafting heavy scaling, surrendering objectives. And the thing I'll say about SKT, and certainly Samsung today, and even Longzhu at times, is mistakes. There are clear mistakes. There are clear things that can be snowballed on, that can be taken advantage of. And sure, there is a meta right now where the games can be dragged later, but the best teams, RNG today, for example, SKT on the first day, will kill a game from there. So sure, there's a chance to come back, but gaping holes in multiple games from every Korean team is a big surprise.
As the other Korean fanboy here, I'm actually not very concerned for Korea specifically. I think while there is mistakes in early to mid game, very few teams can fully punish it. And I know that these teams will obviously go back and then look at these games for next week and be like, okay, guys, what is it? What is that's going wrong here? No, are we drafting wrong? Are we playing wrong? And they will start fixing them. So the fact that SKT did not lose a game yet, despite having some of these issues, just shows how strong they will be now, but also later on.
I mean, the glass half full way to kind of summate what I think both of us are at is, it feels like SKT, Samsung, and Longzhu are playing game 1 of a best of 5 rather than playing a best of 1. Best of 1, usually, I feel like if you get aggressive, if you get a lead, go from there, and that's usually what Korean teams will do, as long as you have done it on occasion. But if you're playing this style in a best of 5, I agree, you probably win more often than not. You've got the people on the Rift to take advantage of Ardent Sensor, you're confident in your late game macro, but when you're targeting a best of 1, I do take umbrage with endless scaling with Sejuani, Twitch in the same draft, and I feel like, sure, maybe you're looking forward, but we have teams, C9, RNG, pushing forward, showing that they're contenders, and you can only take them so lightly before suddenly you're out in groups.
Well, that's a great point. We'll see how the Korean teams evolve. I love that you brought up C9 as an example of a style, a crushing style that works. They were up against EDG in our last match of the day, and that was a tight one. You couldn't really predict it, although a lot of people had EDG pinned as a favorite, which I think is fair. But what did you see then? Scout, he doesn't change, does he?
No, he doesn't change. He doesn't think. That's his problem. We had this replay where we were going over all these different things that you had to look out for as Scout, and he just ignored all of them, and that's why he died to the Shen ulti and the gank. And following that, C9 took over in the mid lane and then started forcing these fantastic team fights.
I would argue as a clear thought. It's bloodlust. It's I can be the carrier. I'm going to get the solo kill. I'm going to do it for my captain, Clear Love in Wuhan, get EDG that first win. But after yesterday and after a crushing defeat to SKT, I think he just sees a chance to right the ship, put a win on, get wind in the sails, gets too confident. Sure, we've seen it so often from Scouts, why you and I, when it came to the top 20, were skeptical about what he could do in a best of 1. The best of Scout and 6 best of 1s win 6 best of 1s. But unfortunately, the other side of the coin is he's had kind of critical errors 3 games in a row on the same champion, and then you take a step back and say, okay, deep breaths, adjustments for next week.
Yeah, and that is 0-3 for EDG. They are diving themselves in a very, very deep hole going into next week, but I do also want to not forget the praise for Cloud9. Wow, how fantastic these last 2 games they played after that blowout versus SKT. They are back on the Rift. Impact is playing very well. Jensen is playing very well. Graves Jungle, out of all things, also worked. So they seem to be in the zone right now, Fisho.
Yeah, exactly.
3,
They
2,
really figured out the last 2 games
1.
how to push the advantage. And that's why we see a lot of teams get early leads, but then wait around for these 30-40 minutes and then risk losing the game. C9 are not doing that at the moment. They're very good around Baron. They play well around, especially Jensen with his Syndra, like trying to force some plays. And then Impact on this Shen today was fantastic. Like the pick was perfect to counter the comp of the enemy team. And then his play with aggressive taunts forward, again, was able to set up more fights. So it was really cool to see C9 snowball this game.
And it's kind of, you look at the stats, right? And of course, there was that, it looked like informing
Mission
stat about
starting.
C9 struggling to close. But if I used one word to describe C9 yesterday and today, it's methodical. They have been closing out games, and it's a surprise, but I'm struck by what Reckless said in the opening teaser about Worlds is about putting everything that happened before it behind you and showing something new. And credit to Reaper, he squared up his players. Impact looks reinvigorated in the top lane. Lovely game on Shen today. And they are able to shed some of those up and down performances, just like AHQ, for example, have had a new lease on life largely at Worlds, even if some of those old problems hold true.
Yeah, definitely so. And for that other North American team, TSM, they were up against WE today. And what you say about the coach and kind of a new way of looking at things, Bjergsen said in the interview after this, well, we've also evolved. We're not being demotivated when something bad happens in a game or when we fall behind. We keep fighting and working towards that victory, and that is also what showed today versus WE.
It's funny with TSM, because we got to the group draw, group of life, all the other memes. The one takeaway I had from TSM is this team seems really good. They seem to have corrected the ship. Last year, people were super high on them, but I looked at the season they had and I was like, they've never really played from behind. They've never really had challenges. You think back to the NALCS final, big win from behind against Immortals, 10,000 plus gold. And they get to late game, they know late game. Bjergsen said it in the interview with you. They're so comfortable in the late game now. Their fights are on point. Everyone knows their role. There's no moments. It's many of the players at the moment. We're not seeing that anymore. And
my resolve remains strong.
celebration, that's why you see optimism from the top players.
It's also worth to highlight that none of their players are falling behind in the lane. Like down the bot lane, 2v2, they can hold their own. We know Bjergsen is going to be fine in mid, and Hansa is playing really well in top lane. That was an issue last year where from time to time some of these lanes would just lose and they would fall very far behind early. It's not happening right now, which is super good thing for TSM. And the fact they are in this group here where they don't have to face a Korean team, they look like the strongest of the 4 teams at the moment, should mean that they are aiming for that #1, and I think they will get that #1.
It seems very likely, but we're going to change things. I want to call back to something that you guys said in your discussion about the top 20. Bjergsen is there steadily number 10, and you guys said, well, what we want to see is Bjergsen really being the person that can take over the game. Could it be that because of the way TSM is playing now and none of the lanes are in a deficit and they're all doing good, that's not even necessary because they're just yelling so good right now?
I think in a best of 5, there will be a game
Be
where you
still.
take the bull by the horns. That's when we'll
Your
look for Bjergsen to have that
blows
sort
do
of
cut in
performance. My
twain.
takeaway really is my big question as an analyst, my big what if is what if Fnatic 2015 kept that roster for another year, refined their play, Huni kept working on his English, they integrated everything. How good would they be at 2016 Worlds? We're getting that answer about TSM at 2016 Worlds to 2017. It's another year for Bifrost, coming off being NALCS MVP. They look turned up. They have double lift in form as
Learning
well.
English.
That part, you can go on the analyst. etc., etc. But the big thing there is they look like a more mature team, and unfortunately, in the nature of our sport, we don't see that
I got your back. And front.
often enough. So I love seeing it here and being like, wow, they actually do look like they learned a lot here, even if there was some ups and downs and some roster swap along the way.
Yeah, good stuff from TSM. Not so good stuff from Sam's. Today they got handed their first loss at the first loss to a Korean team versus RNG. It was a fantastic game though, I gotta say. And it was one of those where RNG just put the pedal to the metal.
Yeah, they were definitely not afraid when it came to punishing mistakes. And that's kind of one thing I noticed with a lot of teams. When they see a top Korean team out of position, they don't just punish them instantly. They're often kind of hesitating, and then this team doesn't end up losing anything. This game here, whatever fight you're seeing on screen, it was just started by RNG because they saw one member from Samsung out of position and they went ham.
I mean, RNG have always had the killer instinct, but sometimes we question how the soup is made. Some of the points to them, the relentless aggression in the early game has been up and down in the past. They're squared up. They're playing the meta largely, but also having their own aggressive flavor. And I know that if I was on the analyst set, I was going to predict against Samsung because I thought pre-tournament, stylistically, RNG is a good matchup for Samsung. Couldn't
Say good night, love.
But it's a big thing to see them actually act on it. And if you're looking for a Chinese favorite, I would look for further than RNG. I have a lot of confidence in this team
Through the armor. Follow the scent.
moving forward. Maybe it's a bold prediction, but I really like what I've seen so far.
I want to say that before the tournament started,
So you flip-flopped.
RNG, with the playstyle in the LPL, could counter Samsung. They are changing up the draft quite a lot. The fact that Uzi is playing with an ardent sense of support is very different. They're not going for all-in aggression. MLXG did not gank a lot in the early game. In this game was the same with some of the games we've seen, before here at Worlds. So that's why I was like, okay, RNG seems to be playing more like Samsung, which should not be in their favor. But then the fact that Samsung were being caught out of position and RNG pulled the trigger showed why they actually won that game. But it was definitely not a LPL RNG we're watching right now. They are adapting to the current meta and also playing a little bit more for late game.
I got to talk to Uzi afterwards, and I've never seen him that happy, and I also asked about RNG and bot lane. He was just like, he had a meta. It could be very, very fun for him, and we know he doesn't, so.
My resolve wanes. Blood.
He's an outstanding player. I always say, the one thing I will always give Uzi is probably the best laner of all time. His mechanics, so often prized out of this world. And to see him happy, now he grinned too early in the LPL final, didn't pick up that title. He'll definitely blush about that, but if he can do something here, if he can once again reach a final, he will feel like it's destiny now, and as the meta starts to settle, at least as far as we can see so far, in their wheelhouse, they start to play as well. Certainly a good time, and with the roster shifting, there's been ups and downs. I really do look at RNG and say, this could be a complete package, and usually with non-Korean teams, there's something you want to point to, and that hasn't been exposed so far.
Well, let's take a look at what is on the plate for tomorrow. That'll be the last day of week 1 here at least. We have WE versus the Black Wolves kicking everything off, and I'm looking for those matchup. Misfits versus TSM. It's going to be a good one. Also, the Gigabyte Marine. IMT. Which one do you guys have your eye on?
I mean, I'm looking RNG versus G2, the very last game here of week 1. It's actually also casted by me and Papa Smithy, so that's super exciting. That game to me is a very big part of if G2 makes it out or not. I think if they lose to RNG, I expect G2 to also lose to Samsung next week, and then suddenly they
Go to sleep.
be getting enough wins to make it out. So the fact that obviously we have RNG beating Samsung right now, it is making everything way worse.
Exactly.
For G2 Esports, they have to beat RNG.
Fate willed that I
that was
survive.
my thought exactly. I was like, oh, this is cool, RNG upset Samsung, and then, that is pretty bad.
But for me, it's another game we're casting, so a full sellout here for the last 3 best of 1.
Tune in.
But Fnatic versus Longzhou, I think, is a really interesting one. Because I think, okay, great bot lane matchup, right? At the end of the day, it's Reckless versus Spray. Haven't seen that in a long time. Something that stood out from 2015 World semifinals. That was, of course, Fnatic versus the Rocks Tigers. out there at the time. Maybe Coup Tiger's even been so long ago. That's a really fun match. Matchup, hard incentive for both. Sure, it could get away from Fnatic, but whenever a team is 0-2, some people
Fear only holds me back.
had optimism about it. There's so many ways that if he gets to late
Trapped like
game,
a rat.
Fnatic can win by even if he made a big lead yesterday. What I'll say for Fnatic versus
You have no
Longzhu
choice
is that
but to
Longzhu still
fight.
haven't cemented on the current meta, and Fnatic need this win because a 0-3 Fnatic. It's in a 0-3 EDG already, but a 0-3 Fnatic, I don't think
I will not abandon my quest.
anyone is predicting
Me
that
and the
category.
Fisher are both looking at each other like, oh, it's... yeah.
Fnatic tend to make a lot of macro mistakes, and Longzhu have already proven twice now that if you make a mistake or give them a small opening, they will just
Maybe
execute.
don't make a big opening 3 minutes into the game.
Like a
that's about
Mordekaiser in the
Yeah,
bot lane?
not-
I mean, maybe not. There's the one where you're 4 members, one guy's dead, and the enemy team is just looking away from Baron for like 10
version
seconds, and
2.
Baron is gone, and bam, the game is suddenly in favor of Longzhu. Like, these kind of plays will punish Fnatic, and that's why Fnatic needs to play flawlessly, and they need to have
The
reckless
chase is
hard
on.
carry.
Yeah, I mean, he did, right?
My
But it just wasn't
blade strikes.
enough again as we have seen yesterday. We made it.
My
Maybe we should put all
adrenaline is spicy.
our marbles on Misfits now.
Check
If they beat
this out.
TSM tomorrow, there could be a chance with this 50-50. This was Max.
I mean, realistically, I think this is a better chance of making out a group than Fnatic at the moment. With Fnatic losing to Gigabyte Marines in the first day, it is very difficult. If they lose to Longzhu, they got to win every single game next week. Misfits are going to play Flash Wolves again. They can take them down. I think they can go even against WE, and if they're showing something good against TSM, there is a chance they can make it out.
So this is, I mean, I'm not lying here. Before we didn't put that much stake in Misfits.
Your
We didn't
attacks
really know
will
what would happen,
betray
but obviously
you.
they're the first seed coming out of Europe. Actually, the second seed coming out of Europe. But is it enough now from this match against Flash Wolves? I think
It's more the fact that I don't think Flash
He
Wolves
may
are
be
looking very
small,
good.
but
So
he
I'm looking at
has a
Misfits to take another
punch.
win in that specific one. And if
They're
they can
gonna
find
feel this one from
one more game
space.
WE, there's at least a chance of a
Leave 'em
tiebreaker. I still
quaking
think it's
in
on
their
TSM and
boots.
WE to make it out, and Misfits are still like an outsider. I don't think it's high
There
debut
you go.
compared to Fnatic. We're currently 0-2.
All
It
right.
is funny how this segment did turn into an easy support group on the side of the chair.
We got to do something. Right? No, just kidding.
We're not crying yet.
No, we're not. Hey, it was good today. Any closing thoughts from you, Papa Smithy?
I mean, it was a good day's games. The meta continues to evolve. Sure, it is developed around a single item, but I want to see where it goes from here because I like that the teams that sit back are punished and that the aggressors largely are the ones coming out. That's how I feel League of Legends should be played, and so far, at least today, that was rewarded.
And it's also very fun to watch, so that will be it tonight. Thank you very much to Fisher. Thank you very much to Papa Smithy. We're going to sign off, and then we'll be back tomorrow for the final day of Week 1 groups here from Wuhan. We'll see you then.
The hunt goes on. Wrath from on high.
Manipulating matter. Ugh! Hey, bother someone else.
Face me, heathen.
Your survival is too great a threat. Hiding in plain sight.
I knew I kept this around for a reason.
I will lead us to triumph.
Cover me, robot.
A mere scratch. Root them out.
Serve to the end.
I should build more armor.
dare you? Can you keep up?
Where do you think you're going?
As you're it.
Stay on target.
Shield incoming.
My skills are sharpened. Slice to ribbons.
Keep running. He loves the chase. The blood
In my
price.
sights.
Anvil slam.
Let's play again. Hide and seek.
4 turns remaining.
Let's make you more attractive. Get it? Because it's a black hole.
Now you are trapped.
The toll for walking this road is your head.
Three turns left. Two turns left.
I really have to improve resin someday.
Dare you attack? Whirling death.
I'm not afraid.
Remain while I can see. Oh, is violence necessary? Oh.
Victory.